Hello, welcome to Thor Talk, the show all about Marvel's resident god of thunder, where I discuss Thor feats, battles, story arcs, villains, and more. On this episode of Thor Talk, we look at a very recent comic where Thor teaches Jean Grey the ways of a warrior so that she can fight off the Phoenix Force. Plus, we see if Thor can control the storms without Mjolnir, as depicted in the trailer for Thor Ragnarok. All this and more on Thor Talk.
I am Thor the Thunderer, son of Odin, prince of Asgard. I am an Avenger, and this world is under my protection.
Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor.
Jean Grey, number 4, was written by Dennis Hopeless in July of 2017. After seeing a vision of the Phoenix Force coming to possess her, Jean Grey seeks advice from Namor the Submariner, who says she should fight back against the Phoenix. Jean knows that she's no warrior, so she goes to Jotunheim to seek help from the greatest warrior of all time, Thor Odinson. But Jean is not the only one seeking the Odinson. Behind her, she sees an army of orcs headed in the same direction to kill Thor. Jean finds Thor in a tavern to warn him, only to find that he is very drunk and retelling many stories of his many adventures. Jean barricades the door, but Thor seems too drunk to even notice the danger. Jean Grey tells Thor that she sought him out so that he could teach her how to become a warrior, because she has a huge battle coming up. Drunk Thor says that her predicament reminds him of a tale from his youth, and he proceeds to tell it despite Jean's warnings of approaching orcs. When he was young, he and Loki wished to prove themselves to Odin, so they took weapons from the armory and set off to tame the fabled Lavadon. The Lavadon torched them, and the pair fled the cave with their plans for taming the creature dashed. Then, the orcs burst through the doors into the tavern as Jean begs the drunk Thor to stop telling stories and fight. Then, in a flash of blazing speed, Thor joins the fight. Jean does her best to hold off the orcs, but Thor is so at ease with fighting them that he proceeds to tell another story. In Viking times, an army of men begged Thor to lead them against a rival tribe. Thor expected the fight to be an easy victory. He had more men, familiar terrain, and he had Mjolnir. However, the rival tribe had a champion of their own, a frost giant who froze out all of Thor's men and changed the once familiar terrain to that of snow and ice. Thor was now severely outnumbered, and the two fought day and night with everything they had. Then, when all seemed lost, Thor lifted Mjolnir to the sky and called down lightning to strike the creature down. Meanwhile, Thor cuts down the last orc, and the fight is over. Later, as Jean is recovering, Thor says that this reminds him of another story, of how just last week, someone told him that an army of orcs was looking for him. Jean exclaims when she realizes that Thor knew that the orcs were coming. Thor explains that after he heard this, he made a loud drunken show about going up to the mountain to drink, so that the ogres would follow him up the mountain, and there would be very little collateral damage there. Jean then realizes that Thor wasn't so drunk after all, and all the stories that Thor told her was him trying to teach her about being a warrior. As a warrior, you should plan in any way you can, but you should never expect your plans to work without fail. You must improvise, or you will die. So, while Thor is only a guest star in this comic, this is probably the most we've seen of him since his mini-series earlier this year. While Thor was supposed to be a major player in Secret Empire and The Mighty Thor, he hasn't been in a single issue of either for more than 3 pages. Whereas he is in this comic for a total of 16 pages. We see Thor in this issue use his past experiences to teach Jean how to be a warrior. While he had planned perfectly to take down his opponents, something went wrong and he had to adapt and improvise to win the battle.
What were you the god of again?
So the latest trailer for Thor Ragnarok has been released, and we see Thor use lightning without Mjolnir. This is very present in the comics. While Mjolnir very much has its own weather controlling abilities, it's more of a focus and a boost for Thor's own weather manipulation. As said by Volstagg in Thor Blood Oath number 2, when Thor was very young and didn't have Mjolnir, he could barely control the weather and almost flooded the halls of Asgard in his sleep. Later, Thor became much more adept at using the weather without Mjolnir, such as when he struck down Gorr the God Butcher with a bolt of lightning, when he made it rain fire on a barren world, and when he called on a blast of lightning so powerful that he killed Durok the Demolisher, who he could barely defeat when he had Mjolnir. So Thor is the god of thunder with or without Mjolnir. Well, that's all for this episode of Thor Talk. If you want to keep up with Thor Talk and all Thor related news, follow Thor Talk on Instagram at Thor Talk. You can also keep up with Thor Talk by simply subscribing. Once again, I'd like to formally state that all art and video is owned by its respected companies and I own none of it. With that said, see you next time on Thor Talk, where
you'll behold in breathless wonder.